Hello and welcome to the Shaman's View, the news from the invisible world. I'm Dr. Alberto Villoldo, and today I'd like to share with you the shaman's discoveries for longevity, for getting our health span to equal our lifespan. You know, we're probably the first generation alive whose children will live shorter and sicker lives than we did, uh, because of the tremendous amount of disease that is happening in the world today, most of it coming from our very poor diet. The standard American diet, SAD, sad, it's very, very sad, is creating levels of obesity and heart disease and cancer and dementia that are unheard of in the rest of the world. When I was a young medical anthropologist in the Amazon, I went to backwater villages in the rainforest that had never seen a light-skinned person before. And there was no cancer, no dementia, no heart disease. This was amazing to me that they didn't have the illnesses that are devastating us in the West today. How did they do it? How did they avoid it? Well, I'm going to share with you today the plant products that will help you to get your lifespan and your health span to coincide, so that we don't have to succumb to disease like it's happening in the world today with our elders and even our children. Because even though human lifespan has increased dramatically in the last 50 years, it's really the morbidity years, the wheelchair-ridden years, the bedridden years that have gotten longer. We're living sicker longer, not healthier longer. So if you follow the keys and the secrets actually discovered by indigenous peoples, you don't have to be part of the bell curve that is devastating Western society today. You don't have to be in the fat part of the bell curve that says that you will die either from cancer, heart disease, or from Alzheimer's or with Alzheimer's. So how did they do it? How did they maintain such extraordinary health? Well, for one thing, everything that they ate in the Amazon was organic. That you didn't have to have organic food. Everything was natural. Everything came from nature. The vegetables, the produce was rich in minerals. Today we're eating foods that are devoid of essential minerals. Beautiful fruit and vegetables that are coming from depleted soils, where we don't get the minerals that the body needs to be able to repair, regenerate, and to transport toxins out of the body. Second, they were drinking clean water, healthy clean water. We're not drinking clean water today. And today we're drinking water that has been destructured, that's losing its natural spin. Everything in the cosmos spins. And when you run water through long tubings and pipes, they lose their natural structure and they stop being biologically friendly waters. They become toxic. They're not able to transport toxins out of the body or to sustain this water vessel that we are. We're 80% water. The third thing is that they lived in community, and people generally cared for each other. They held each other, they touched, they had contact. They lived lovingly with the village and not isolated like we're living today. Despite the isolation that we're having to go through because of circumstances, the human today, the American male, particularly middle-class worker, lives in isolation, frequently we don't even know who our next door neighbors are. Connection, connection, connection is so important. Even if you do it virtually, connect from the heart. Open yourself up. Allow yourself to be held by another. So valuable and important. But the secret of the Amazon peoples were the plants, and particularly their sacred plants. Now, these were not the teacher plants. These were not the psychedelic plants like the ayahuasca and the San Pedro and the chacruna and the many other psychoactive teacher plants that are known around the world. These were actually the sacred plants that created long life and long health. And I discovered when I was working with Dr. David Perlmutter in our book, Power Up Your Brain, we started looking at the chemistry of the sacred plants around the world. And we found that all of them, from curcumin to resveratrol to cat's claw, uña de gato, to the dozens of these sacred plants around the world, what they did was to switch on a system in the body that for most people lies dormant. That is a detoxifying system, and that switches on the genetics for health and silences the genes that create heart disease and breast conditions and cancer and diabetes and dementia. Imagine that we could epigenetically, this is called epigenetics, begin to switch on and off the genes and turn on the genes that create health and silence those genes that would get us to the grave early, sick, and forgetting our children's names. These are the NRF2 activators. Amazing that around the world, the plants that were most sacred, most important to all of the peoples, primordial peoples, were the ones that brought about long life and good health. Because the shaman is interested not only in treating disease, shamans are doctors, but they're also sacred beings. They're also in communion with spirit. They were more interested in preventing disease. In fact, the shaman lived very, very well if the people in the village were healthy, lived in abundance, didn't have to go to work in the morning, could sleep late. If the villagers got sick, the medicine woman or the medicine man got fired. They were there to protect the health, not to treat disease. And of course, in the West today, our healthcare systems are really sick care system, disease care systems. We don't encourage or know how to protect the health of our children, of our elders. Extraordinary. But in reality, we do know how to do it. So these NRF2 activators, the most potent ones that I'm going to share with you today are two. Of course, we all know about resveratrol that comes from the skin of grapes, and we all know about turmeric and how in India, the Indians have 15% of the incidence of Alzheimer's than people in America or Europe do because of their use of turmeric in curries, curcumin, curcuma longa, that wonderful yellow spice. A problem with turmeric, of course, is that it's not very bioavailable. Very hard to get it into your body and into your cells. But I'm going to share two of these with you that are extraordinary NRF2 activators and that you have in your home. But I'm going to show you how to use them, because if they're used improperly, they will actually get you sicker and not healthy. So the first one that many of us love is coffee. Coffee is an extraordinary activator of this NRF2 detox pathway. Coffee, have your coffee in the morning, but don't put any sugar in it. And if you put cream, don't use milk, please. Use half and half, heavy cream, or use soy milk. But don't use regular milk. It has none of the good fats, and it has all of the terrible milk solids that are detrimental to your health. Don't put any sugar in it. Coffee is an amazing NRF2 activator. Sacred to the Sufis, sacred to many parts of the world and the Middle East. Now, the NRF2 is actually a protein. It's a protein that I like to think of as the Navy SEALs. You've all seen the movies of the Navy SEALs. They're, in their base, they're activated, they go, they strike, they come back. The NRF2 protein is bound to the cell membrane. and is sitting there waiting to be activated. And coffee and these other sacred plants are NRF2 activators. They nudge the NRF2 protein out, and it goes from the membrane of the cell down into the gene area, into the nucleus of the cell, and into our DNA, and begins to turn on the genetic switches to produce the antioxidants, the superoxide dismutase, the glutathione that begins to exhaust itself after the age of 35. It switches on the production of these antioxidants, even if you're 70 years old. And as soon as they do that, they begin to silence the genes for cancer, the genes for dementia, the genes for heart disease, quiets them down and switches on the genetics for health. Dr. Dean Ornish at UCLA did all the science behind this. He found that in less than 2 months, you can switch on more than 200 genes that create health and silence more than 500 genes that create disease. Extraordinary. And as soon as they do that, they leave the nucleus and they go back to the membrane of the cell. And this is the secret. If you keep them in the nucleus all the time, flipping genetic switches, they will actually shut down the detox and longevity programs that you want to turn on. So the secret is hormesis. Remember that word, hormesis, a hormetic effect. Hormesis, hormesis, which means cycling. For example, we do hormesis when we exercise. We exercise muscles, and we do the right amount of exercise. We build muscle, we get strong. We do too much, we begin to waste away. We go into a cold tub. We shock the body for a few moments, switches on repair systems. You stay in the cold tub too long, you die in the middle of winter. A little bit of radiation. The radiation caves and thermal springs in Europe, a little bit of radiation switches on healing systems. A lot of radiation kills you. This is called hormesis, a hormetic effect. So if you drink coffee 7 days a week, you're actually shutting down those detox and epigenetic systems that we want to turn on. So drink coffee 4 or 5 days a week, then switch over to tea for a couple of days. So you want to cycle. You want to cycle. The body loves to have all of its systems cycled. So we're not consistently bombarding it with any one particular pathway or upregulator. Coffee is number one. So keep coffee on your diet. Also, it's interesting because if you go and receive a liver transplant, your liver doctors will tell you drink 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day. Now, they don't know why. We know why, because it's switching on NRF2. But this will reduce your risk for liver disease, liver cancer by 75%. Coffee reduces the risk for dementia, for Alzheimer's, significantly. But you have to cycle it. Coffee is number one. And I was very happy to hear those news because I love my morning cappuccino. The second one is one that we should all be doing and that you can make at home. And you know about it already. It's broccoli. Except you need to eat about 40 pounds of broccoli to get the kind of effect that we want. The effect from broccoli comes from a substance called sulforaphane that is most prominent in young broccoli sprouts, 4 to 6 day old broccoli sprouts, like these. These are sprouts that we make at home, and a handful of sprouts that you can order from Amazon, organic sprouting broccoli seeds, and in 4 days you have a salad or a salad topping that is extraordinary because broccoli, sulforaphane, you cannot buy it. You cannot order this in a capsule form because it needs an enzyme called myrosinase. And this enzyme is actually in the sprout, but it's only released when you chew on it, when you crunch it. The enzyme is released and produces sulforaphane from the basic substrate for sulforaphane. So you can only get it if you produce it yourself. Now, the benefit of the broccoli sprouts is not only is an amazing NRF2 activator, but it is probably the finest epigenetic regulator that we know. But it only works if you make it at home. Look, I can't do anything in the kitchen. I can hardly boil water. Actually, I can make very good marmalade, which I've started doing recently. But I make the best broccoli sprouts. You water them once a day, you get a cheesecloth, put the seeds in, soak them for about 8 hours or overnight, drain them, water them once a day, and keep them in a dark place at room temperature, warm, so you don't want them to freeze at night. So this is number 2. The beauty of sulforaphane, of the young broccoli sprouts, is that it is very bioavailable. This NRF2 activator is 90% bioavailable compared to turmeric, which is only 6% bioavailable. So these are the hormetic upregulators. I encourage you to do this at home, and again, don't eat it every day. Don't put it in your salad every day, because it's going to shut down. It's going to shut down the detox pathways that you want to wake up. Hormesis is like surfing. When you're surfing, you want to stay on top of the wave. So here's a big wave you're surfing, and you want to remain at the very top of the wave, because once you crash, you hit the bottom. And this is where you want to keep your detox and your genetic upregulation happening, because if you overdo it, if you take these for more than 4 or 5 days in a row, you'll shut down the detox systems. And this is not, you don't want to do that. So cycle. It's a hormetic effect. You've got to cycle it. And the discovery of hormesis actually happened with radiation workers at nuclear power plants that would wear the little radiation badges. And the old thinking was that radiation was cumulative. If you accumulated enough radiation, you would get sick. It turned out that it wasn't. That short, brief amounts of radiation in a thermal spring, in your doctor's office getting an X-ray, in your local nuclear power plant, would trigger repair processes and regeneration processes in the body. Too much of it would kill you. And this is a hormetic effect. Too much exercise will break you down. Staying submerged in cold water for too long, you'll die. You stay in your sauna for too long, it's detrimental for your health. Hormesis is stressing the body just enough to elicit a tremendous healing response. The first response is to heal, to repair. And this is where most people stop, because their bodies are too toxic. They cannot go to the next step, which is to regenerate. So the first step is to repair, and this is really what a lot of modern medicine is about. It's about repairing. But we want to go beyond that. We want to go into the next step, which is to grow a new body, to regenerate. Every organ in the body does that. The liver, most notably. You can cut off 90% of your liver, and it will grow back. Now, the other organs have that capability of doing that, but it's much more subdued. But they won't do it if the body is toxic. And this is where the NRF2 activators come in, the broccoli sprouts. They switch on the detox pathways of the body. And then the cells begin to eliminate toxins, because every one of our cells has a waste basket. And inside that waste basket, we put toxins, primarily dead mitochondria and other organelles that the body is waiting to recycle. And it will recycle 95% or 97% of these proteins, because they're already inside the cell. wow, how cool. We don't have to turn fish or tuna into Alberto. These cells are, these proteins are already differentiated into heart tissue and liver tissue and muscle tissue. The cell is waiting to recycle them. But it won't recycle them until we bring our sugar levels down and we're able to go into autophagy, into recycling, elimination of toxins. At that point, we will begin to use these proteins that we have stored inside the cell, 97% of those, and then the 3% of waste will release. This is what the broccoli sprouts will do, the coffee, the NRF2 activators, curcumin, resveratrol. Now, the other thing we need is not only to get these toxins out of the cell, but we need to transport them from the cell and out of our bodies, which means that you first need to get them through the liver, you need to get them to the bile, you need to get them so that you can poop them out of your body. The transport system relies on minerals, relies on, this is the rivers inside the body, the lymph. This is how we get the toxins out into these organs and then into the basically digestive tract where they can be eliminated. And if you're not having a good balance of electrolytes, you need to have your potassium, your calcium, your sodium levels, and you need your minerals that we get from the earth. This is what plants do. Plants turn minerals into life and sunlight and water. And if the plants we're getting are coming from depleted soils, we're not getting the mineral nutrients. So be sure you get good mineral support. Get a mineral supplement. Eat organic. Don't wash your lettuce too much. Eat a little bit of the local dirt. This is great probiotics and great minerals as well. So this is how we can prevent these amazingly devastating conditions that are afflicting modern humanity, that are keeping us sicker than ever, that are making these what would be mild pandemics become incredibly destructive because we don't have the resilience anymore. We don't have the resilience in our detox systems, and we don't have the resilience in our immune systems. So I encourage you to order your broccoli sprouts, begin to sprout them at home, and enjoy your cup of coffee. If you don't like coffee, you can stick with the sprouts. They're absolutely extraordinary. And then, of course, remember to do your fire ceremonies. Remember that we cannot attain physical health unless we have emotional and spiritual health and well-being. Dedicate yourself every day to make an extraordinary act of kindness, a totally random, extraordinary act of kindness, and notice how much joy that brings to others and to you and to the world. Thank you for joining me today in the Shaman's View, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And work on your sprouts. Use a handful in your salad. Aho.